Hey, hi. It's 4:20. Let's get high. Feel free to submit questions. I wanted to speak today about prophecy because sometimes when you learn something new, you want to share it with people. So it helps to imprint, what you learned in your head. And what I learned today is there's 3 levels of prophecy. Uh, there's prophecy that comes from the mouth of angels. There is a Thebosco, means the daughter of sound, which comes irregardless of who's going to hear it. Like prophecy comes to the prophet, but Thebosco can come to anyone. And then the lowest level of prophecy is dreaming. And dreaming is considered 1/60th of prophecy. And yes, it's 1/60th of prophecy. It's also 1/60th of death. Anyways, so these 3 levels, I just thought would be interesting to discuss them. Because first of all, anyone can be a prophet. And, there aren't any real, God does what God does. Sometimes God makes a really bad person to be a prophet. Like it's written in the Torah about, what's his name and his donkey. I think I'll remember. I'll remember, I just can't remember right now. Anyways, he was this really bad dude and was hired to curse the Jewish people. And he wanted to do it, but God, before he went, so God played a trick on him and opened up the mouth of his donkey, and the donkey and him were having this, Bilam, thank you, Bilam. Was it Bilam? Balak and Bilam, and that's it. Bilam, thank you, Bilam. So he was like he was a great prophet, and but before he went to curse the Jewish people, that God opened up the mouth of his donkey, and he and the donkey had a conversation as a way to say to him, you're the prophet. You will say whatever I put into your mouth, and that's what happened. That went to Balak, the king, who hired him, and they say, "I give you lots of money. Just curse these people." And every time Bilam opened up his mouth, praises and blessings came out. Even all right. Anyways, so came out these blessings. So that's the idea of a prophet, that a prophet must say exactly what was put into his mouth. And if he doesn't, because the whole law is built around prophecy, they would kill him. A false prophet was you didn't mess around with prophecy. It said in general, if the courts killed more than one person in 60 years and 70 years, the courts were considered murderers. But when it came to false prophecy, they'd run after him to kill him. You didn't mess around with prophecy. And one of the examples given, that negative prophecy doesn't have to happen. For example, if people need rain and the prophet comes, it's not going to rain, you're all bad people. And the next day it rains, they're still a prophet because maybe the people repented. Then again, if he says, you've repented, God has promised it's going to rain from sunup to sundown, and it does, and it gets an hour before sundown, it stops raining, that you kill him, he's a false prophet. Prophecy has to be exact. And there were many prophets, there were so many prophets, there'd be a time of Dovid, that they actually had schools of them. The Dovid's like, like 3,000 years ago. And they had schools for for the prophets, and they used to go around in gangs, and they were like sort of the ancient hippies. They had like instruments, and when they were prophesying, they would throw off their clothes and prophesize that nothing would get between them and the prophecy. And I mean, it wasn't like a logical thing to do. It was just a thing they had to do. The prophecies coming, and they just had to throw off their clothes. And people got used to these guys. Used to call them meshuganim, and meshuganim means a strange person. We use it to mean like a crazy person, but it really means like a strange person. And that's how the prophets were. That they were strange. They acted in strange ways, but they were very great prophets who wrote amazing books, and I shouldn't say who channeled their prophets. They every word they wrote down is prophecy. They weren't like authors, and even the books don't well, and some of the books have authors like Dovid. Dovid is the author of Psalms. But he was a great prophet, and all these things he saw in the heavens. He saw these songs in the heavens. And he wrote them down. And of course, Moshe was the greatest prophet. That he stood like face to face with God and received the 10 Commandments and all the shards from the engraving of the 10 Commandments into the 2 cubes of the 10 Commandments. Were 600,000 in all, and those are all the letters that composed the Torah. And so there was Moshe with the first 5, and then there's the books of prophets. I don't remember exactly how many there are. All in all, there are 24 books. There's Gematria Kod, which a Kod is a vessel, and these 24 books were meant to hold these living waters that never change, and everyone can drink from them and get smarter. And so that that's the prophets. And then you have the Thebosco. And the Thebosco, the daughter of voice, are these spiritual voices that are going around and come into the earth. And sometimes, someone hears one. You don't have to be a special person to hear them. You don't have to be a prophet. You just hear these things. Even in our times, we hear things if you're listening. And one of the famous stories about Bosco is there was this laundryman. And let me start with there was a man called Rebbe. And Rebbe, he was such a high person that he was able to take the 600 divisions of law and condense them into 6, which we know as Mishna, which is the basis for the Gemara, which together they comprise the Talmud. And the day that he died, a Thebosco came out and said, whoever comes to Rebbe's funeral will go directly to heaven. You won't have to go through Gan Eden. You won't have to go through different incarnations. All you have to do is go to his thing, and it will be like, that's it. You go straight to heaven when you die. Don't return. Don't have to go collect 200. The whole thing's, you're out of the whole thing. You achieved it. And so this laundryman in the Talmud, the laundryman is always, sort of considered like kind of like a very low person. Doesn't understand things too well. But he heard the Thebosco, and he thought, "Whoa, I'm going to go." But I have some. I got a lot of laundry to do. Well, I'll go later. It's not right now. And he got very involved in his laundry. And one of the things they say why these are kind of crude people is they were known to use dog shit to get the chemical out that we would wash the clothes with. And I don't know. A lot of people have dogs. To me, it's a very noxious kind of smell, and you have to have a certain kind of crudality to deal with it. I think I shouldn't say that because so many people have dogs. Anyways, that's how the Talmud looks at it. And so the story goes on. He looked up, the sun's going down, and he realizes he's missed Rebbe's Levaya, Rebbe's burial. And as a result, he missed his opportunity to go directly to heaven. Now he's going to have to go to Gehenna and go back in reincarnation. And he was like very upset. He went home, he went up to the roof, threw himself over and died. And another boss call comes out and says, he gets it too, which is interesting because, even killing oneself is considered murder. But God judges on the intention. And the intention of this man was he was so bereft that he had missed this, that he just couldn't live anymore. And God thought that was really cool and said, you can have it too. So let me just read up here. Someone asked, how do you spell the boss call? Oh, boss call. I see. It would be like bot, B-A-T, which is means daughter, and kol, K-O-L. Kol means a voice, the daughter of voice. Let's see. Mishna. Mishna. So, well, as I said, see, if you ever look into a Talmud, actually, I have one here. Well, let me get out the Talmud. Let's see. It's very interesting the way the Talmud is is displayed. On this side here, see. And this is Rashi on the inside. This is grandson Tosfos. They're always arguing with one another. But this is the Gemara in the middle. And the Mishnah, let me see. So you go pages and pages. I'm sure you can find it at the beginning. The beginning's never at the beginning. So let's see. Well, it's kind of ridiculous, but I just want to be able to show up. See, so this is the Mishnah. See, and it goes to here, from the top down to here, and on that Mishnah is written many, many pages of Talmud. And so you see, each one is different because of the commentary. Sometimes the commentary is long, shorter, so they had to fit all this stuff in. And so the Mishnah is very short, and that's the first time that they wrote down the law. Up until that time, the law was oral. That's for over 1,000 years, and then they had to write it down because the Romans were kicking us out of Israel, so we had to write it down. So Rebbe did it, and everyone agreed, you did it, man. You took 600 categories, reduce them down to 6, and each little Mishnah has the entire Gemara in it. And how do we know? Because that's what they did. They argued about the Mishnah, and all this stuff came out. And in that way, that's how we understand that all of that was inside the Mishnah. And that's how great Rebbe was. And he was a very wealthy man. And he said he never took pleasure, not even one little bit, like just physically. His whole life was spiritual. So it says that one time Rebbe was at the temple, at the big temple in Yerushalayim, where they sacrificed animals. And this calf got away and saw Rebbe and ran to Rebbe and tried to put his head under Rebbe's cloak. And Rebbe said to the animal, no, you were made to be sacrificed, go be sacrificed. And as a result of this, Rebbe contracted terrible kidney diseases and said he would only go out to urinate when the horses were being fed because then people couldn't hear him scream. Eventually, it left him when he saw the woman who cleaned up his house, found some mice, little mice just born, and she was, trying to get them out with the broom, trying to kill them. And he intervened. He said, no, don't kill them. Just put them out. And as a result, it stopped. These guys, they were judged on a very, very short fuse, or little, the littlest thing wrong, man, they got punished for it. They're expected to be perfect, and no one's perfect. But Rebbe was pretty close, and he wrote Mishna. And as a result, we have Talmud. So bat kol. Instead of a C, it would be a K, kol, because that's generally how it's written. There's no really right way to write it because it's Hebrew to English. It's a different alphabet, but generally they write it bat kol. That's how I recall. So, and the third level of prophecy is dream. And in every dream, they say that there is something that's true. But dreaming is a very strange thing, because things can happen in dreams that just can't happen in reality. Like one of the famous examples is like an elephant going through the head of a pin. In a dream, this could happen. And we have famous dreams in Torah that Yaakov, he falls asleep on the mountain where is going to be erected the temple. And he has a dream that the angels are going, there's a ladder, a three-prong ladder going up to heaven. And angels are going up and down on the ladder, which immediately, people start questioning, what do you mean up and down on the ladder? It should be going maybe, down and up, because angels are in heaven and the angel will be coming down to the earth, not going up from the earth to heaven. And one of the explanations is because since he was leaving the land of Israel, the angels of Israel that followed him and protected Yaakov, that they left, they went up, and the angels for Chutz La'aretz, for being outside of Israel, they came down. In Torah, every little thing can be questioned, and you don't have to accept the answer of anybody. That's an answer one can accept. They cannot accept it. They can keep the question. There's no dogma in Torah. So there's no one who can say, this is right. Everything else is wrong and this is right. This is right, but there's 70 faces of the Torah. There can be 69 other ways that are right. There's not just one way that's right. And it allows for tremendous diversity, of expression. So and so and there's many. There were the dreams of Pharaoh, and Pharaoh, like he, as an example, is sort of like this. Like he dreamt that there were these 7 nice looking, cows come up from the Nile. And then these really bad looking cows came up from the Nile and ate up the 7 good looking cows. But it didn't make any difference to the, like the bad cows didn't get less bad as a result from eating the good ones. It just made the good ones bad. And later, Yosef, who was put into jail, but he had been an interpreter of dreams, he was called and told Pharaoh, this means that there's going to be 7 plentiful years, and 7 years that, you're going to forget the plentiful years. All you remember is the bad. And, and that's what happened. And that's how the Jewish people came down to Israel. So dreams are a big part of life. And there's 2 types of dreams. There's the dreams that we have at night and the dreams we have in the day. The dreams we have at night are dreams that, come about largely from what we think about during the day. And but the dreams we have in the daytime, these are the things that are aspirations that hang in the clouds. and when we're dreaming, we're up in the clouds because that ain't reality, but it's a dream. And it's important to have dreams and to try to bring one's dreams down to the world. Oh, someone asked me, is the ladder of Yaakov the tree of life? Yes. Well, in a sense, yes. Because these three rungs, they have to do with the three levels of heaven, which in Kabbalah are called Asiya, action, Yitzira, form, and Bria, creation. So these correspond to Asiya is the solar system. And that's where heaven is. Heaven is everything beyond us. So we can really see the structure of heaven. And we see these three rungs. And one is our solar system, and the other is our universe. And the third one is the black hole, where the, I should say galaxies rather, the solar system, the galaxies, and the black hole. And we can see why the black hole is called Bria, because that's where the stars are born from. And where the galaxy is called Jasira, form, because that's where, we see the form of the 12 zodiacal depictions in the stars. And the solar system is Asiya, because that's everything connected to the earth, where that's where things get done. And then there's a fourth level, see? Those are the three levels which correspond to the three levels of the body, which are the head, the upper body, and the lower body. And each one is a triangle. And but there's a fourth level. And the fourth level is the soul. So when we're talking about the universe, the fourth level is the other side of the black hole. And what's on the other side of the black hole? Well, the way the black hole got made was that God, before creation of anything, there was God and there was the name of God. The name of God was like light, infinite possibilities, infinite spherot. In the tree of life, the luminaries only have 10. But this was infinite. So God could do anything, but it was static. It wasn't moving. So it's called Or Ein Sof, light without end, because there wasn't any end. There wasn't any movement until God had a desire to be known and low. And that desire engraved itself into the Or Ein Sof with the letter Yud. That was the first letter of God's name, Yud He Vav He, which is just a point, kind of looks like the head of a drill, and it drilled in, and the Yud is Gematria 10. And so it made a creation based on 10. And so, but all of that, how it made it, like you have this desire of God, and the engraving means that it went in a circular way, and describes this as through this, the circular way, that's what we created heaviness. And then finally that was spit out of the black hole to create stars. And so before the black hole, so that's what we call Atzilut, which means close. And this is very close to God, and only very high people like Yaakov and Yitzchak and Abraham have souls on the other side of the black hole. Most of us have the souls, our soul is either, a very high soul comes from the black hole. The other souls, come from the galaxy, and mostly our souls, which are the last souls, we come from, from the solar system. We're the lowest. And, but there are souls that come from the other side of the black hole. And that's like, that's just a whole different trip. I mean, scientists can't even imagine how this is, but the Zohar the highest of the, there's also 4 levels of categories of books in the Zohar, in the Torah. One being uh, the written word, and then there's three that are called part of the oral tradition, which is the law, the exposition of the law, the extrapolation of the law, and then finally the secret of the law, which is Zohar. And through these, and so this corresponds again to these to Yaakov's ladder, the 3 rungs of Yaakov's ladder, and then you get to where you're going, which is the other side of the black hole, which is nothing for the angels. They move very quickly. We're stuck at the speed of light, but they're not, and that's how it is in spirit. Let me see if there's other. How many years have you been growing your hair and beard out? Well, my beard's been growing since the 60s. I must say, I got out of the Navy and I just never wanted to shave again, and that was that. And my hair, while I was married, which was 30 years ago, I kept my hair short. But once I got divorced, I'll do what I want. I like hair. And hair is also, hair is a very interesting thing. That hair has a hollow inside of it, and hair, we all know, hair is extremely sensual. And with children, if you want to like calm them down, you want to touch their hair, and it really soothes them. Or loving someone, the hair is a very important part of it. Even pubic hair, and it accentuates pleasure. See, because hair is endemically sexual, and that's why it's there's the hollow and there's the outside. So the hollow of the hair is the male part of the hair, and the outside of the hair is the female part of the hair. And that's why in a lot of societies, women want to cover their hair because they're exposed. That is the feminine. Let's see what else we got here. I wish my wife would. Well, that's your problem, man. Anyways, but it's important that people should, give deference to their woman. If the woman doesn't like it, then unless you got some big deal why you have to have it, generally you want to get rid of it. Why? Because you want to give deference to the woman. The woman is more important than the man. The man is supposed to hold the woman above him, as we see from ancient peoples that whenever there was a problem, they did what they needed to do to save the women and children. Even the Titanic, people were like, save the women and children. It's the right thing to do because, women can give birth, and, you don't need, one man can inseminate many women, but one woman can generally give one birth 1 year. So they're much more valuable than men. I mean, it's just like in a herd, you'll have one stallion and a bunch of does. They're not does, they're something else. But, female horses. So that's generally what we should do. Someone said they bought my sex metaphor book. Thank you very much. But it was a bit too far out. Well, it's a shocking book, but I think we need to be shocked into some sort of clarity. The big problem is, the Big Bang, that everyone thinks that life just happens here, happens somewhere else. It's just a prosaic thing that happens. And that ain't true, not even a little bit. Mine is past the small of my back. I always keep it. Oh, your hair. I get it. It's not to show a veil, not to show your veil to just anyone. It must mean not to show your hair to anyone. Yeah, and I think it's a thing. I mean, it's a thing. I know in the Jewish tradition that that Jewish women, generally have their hair uncovered until they get married. And then, because they have their hair uncovered, because they want to show the other boys how pretty they are. But once they get married, they cover up their hair. The pretty should just be for their husband. And the Muslims are very much the same way. They're all covered up outside. When they go inside the house, they dress up real sexy because, it's just for the husband, which I think is pretty cool. Well, you can buy. So as you can buy my book, I'd really appreciate if you would buy it and write a review, even if it's too far out. It's pretty far out, but it's true. It's absolutely true, and I believe that I prove that in my book. And you go to my site, dovidhouse.com. And also you could go just to Amazon. Amazon carries it. And yeah, and there's a free book, I think, on Kindle if you want to do that. So I'm surprised people say they've been buying my book. I haven't seen it. They have a thing that tracks it, and no one's bought my book for months. So I don't know what's happening. But obviously you got it. Was Santa Claus Jewish? Well, I don't know who Santa Claus was. It's just I just don't know. He was someone, and then they made this fable about him. But it's not a Jewish thing. There's nothing really very Jewish about it. Okay, well, you guys are really all right. Let's see. Yeah, it's very spiritual. Yeah, spiritual. It's just being, like spiritual all around us, and we should be like just sensitive to it, and sensitive to the things we do in the world that shouldn't upset, like spiritual things. That there's stuff happening around us, and it's good to be cognizant of it. Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. And I've kind of gone over my allotted 30 minutes I thought I'd do. And thank you really for the questions and being sort of a part of this. It makes it more fun than just sort of talking to the screen. And someone asked me if I consider myself a hippie. I must say, in the 60s, I went with patch clothes and long hair and a beard, and I hitchhiked about 30,000 miles between 1965 and 1970. And I never considered myself a hippie. I just felt that I was on a journey. And when you're on a journey like that and you don't have money, you just live, you become just natural. This is who I am. And I think there was also a lot of that, not just in me, but in many people trying to understand who they were in this world. The world was changing so dramatically from the 50s to the 60s. It was unbelievable. And, everyone was confused. Except maybe Bob Dylan. He didn't seem too confused. He could say exactly what was happening. And everyone go, yeah, man, that's just what's happening. He had a way of capsulizing everything. But he's probably confused also. We're all confused. We're still confused, but not as confused because there was something, in that whole thing, we go hippie, whatever you want to call it, that planted a seed. And it's interesting because 1970 in the Hebrew column 5,730, which is the half-life of carbon-14, meaning in 1970 that the half-life of carbon in every human being became half from what it was in the beginning when the first human being was made. And somehow that's a very important part. And now we're like 50 years from that. And we see that there has been like this transition into a new kind of era, which will be, the 1,000 years of woman and of peace. And so, this stuff might seem very far out to everyone, but it's not so far out. It's like really, what's far out is the lie. And everyone talks about the lie. The lie is about the election. But the lie goes further than that. The reality that had made for us that we were more primitive longer ago, and this is the highest human being, is just a lie. And the whole idea of the Big Bang and evolution and all this crap is just a lie. And religion is a lie. Every religion is a lie, because it's a religion means it's dogmatic. Can't have a religion without a dogma. Some have, like the church, got these horrible stories, and some, like the Torah, like the Jews, we have the rabbis who demand, that they're the authority, and that's the dogma of the Jews. They have to do what the rabbis say. They're more confused than anybody. So stay free. I think that's very important. Oh, all right. Thank you. Anyways, thank you for being part of this, and I'll try to do it Monday through Thursday when I can, and just as an attempt to help people become more educated about reality, that we're living in a huge lie. Bob says, man, you put all the truths together, it amounts to one big lie, and that's the truth of it all. And so, anyways, have a great day, have a great night, have a great life, and keep high, man.